Well, that's right. You're listening to another episode of the co-main event mixed martial arts podcast. I'm Chad Dundas. That's Ben Folks. We're both longtime MMA journalists, and for the last 14 years, we've been meeting here every week to break down all the action in the wild, weird, and occasionally wonderful world of mixed martial arts. Ben, I guess you could say we got a bit of a grab bag episode on our hands today. The UFC and the PFL both held events over the weekend. On opposite sides of the country, the UFC was out in California, where the hometown guy, Anthony Hernandez, lost to Gregory Rodrigues in kind of a slobber knocker of a fight out there. Meanwhile, the PFL was in Tampa, where Cris Cyborg beat Ketlen Vieira in a fight that was supposed to be for Cyborg's women's featherweight title, but wasn't after Vieira weighed him damn near as a lightweight. Cyborg won. Vieira retired. Cyborg was supposed to retire too. Did she, though?
I'm just going to say it right now. Hashtag that's so MMA.
So I don't know, man. Nothing to really stop the presses over this week, but we got a lot of potential topics to cover in the next hour or so. So I guess let's start here. This was perhaps the archetypal UFC fight night for a lot of reasons. You had a lot of people with no Wikipedia pages on the card. You had a lot of mismatches according to the odds. You had several young or newish fighters had a chance to show out. You lucked into a pretty good fight in the main event. This is what we're doing now, essentially, with UFC programming. And so you had this over there in California. You had the hometown guy. And let's talk a little bit about the main event here because, Gregory Rodrigues and Anthony Hernandez went out there, did exactly what I think the UFC thought they were going to do, what they were supposed to do, had a fight of the night caliber main event. Gregory Rodrigues emerges with a unanimous decision victory over Anthony Hernandez. And it's sort of like it's the archetypal fight night main event because you had two good fighters, fun to watch, put on a good, interesting, exciting fight. But to what end? To what end, Ben Folks?
Well, first of all, I'll say I welcomed this fight night event as a palate cleanser after I made my first attempt to sit down and watch this week's CME Movie Club selection Green Room, which the CME patrons overwhelmingly chose as this new installment. And I was mad. I got mad at this movie. I'm going to say more about it when we record our movie club episode. Fuck this movie. I'm angry about it. And then I was happy to turn it off and to get into some violence that actually meant something somehow, some kind of way. This main event to me was about as good as you can hope for some of these because you get a really good fight out of it. You get real back and forth stuff. You get both guys coming out of it not looking like even the loser falls too far as a result of it. Obviously, would have been better to win this fight than to lose it. But there were several moments in there where I was like, Fluffy Hernandez looks like he's about done. Looks like we're just about to wrap this one up. And not only does he somehow stay in the fight, he rallies back. Seems like he might come back and win this thing. I was glad to hear him say afterwards that he felt like he couldn't believe how tough Gregory Rodrigues was because he hit him with everything in the kitchen sink and the guy's still standing there. Because there were some moments, especially he hit him with a couple good elbows in there where you're going, that seems almost demoralizing for you because you really clocked him with a clean one. And all he did was just stand there and look at you. Didn't even seem to make an impact on him. And you had to be like, shit, you're not going to get this guy out of here, it seems. And you get a great fight, hypes up the crowd. Obviously, they would have preferred to see Fluffy win it, but you still get a great fight to end the night on. And it's not as if either one of these guys were looking like they are right on the precipice of being a middleweight contender right now.
No.
Anyway, so this is like for what we're doing on these fight nights, this is as good as it gets pretty much.
Yeah, and that's a commentary of a certain kind, I guess. And this was a good fight. Two tough guys. I don't think either Gregory Rodriguez or uh, Fluffy are going to jump up there and be the champion at any point. Although I was thinking about this today, I was like, I don't know, man. When Sean Strickland is the champion, doesn't it kind of seem like the barn door is open, kind of for whoever wants to wander in there, maybe have a legitimate shot at becoming the champion? But then I also thought to myself, I am a habitual Sean Strickland underestimator.
Yeah.
And so, maybe I'm just not giving the guy enough credit. He's been great. But if you send Gregory Rodriguez out there to fight Sean Strickland, not that you would, but if you did, I don't know. I can't tell you that's a guaranteed win for the champ.
Not that you would is the thing, though, because the biggest obstacle to beating Sean Strickland for the UFC middleweight title is getting a fight against Sean Strickland for the UFC middleweight title. Especially right now, the UFC is kind of looking and picking and choosing those moments. And it seems like the UFC is fairly happy to have Sean Strickland hang around as middleweight champion. And so it doesn't seem like we're just going to be looking at the rankings and going next man up. Looks like we're maybe being a little bit more methodical than that. And so yeah, like I don't know, like if you were to come to me as a top 10 middleweight in the UFC and be like, what do I have to do to get a title shot? I'd be like, I kind of don't know, man. Like you have to win a few good fights that are very exciting, fights like this one, but you also have to somehow become the kind of guy where the UFC looks at you and goes, "We could see you as middleweight champion." And that's tough to do, especially because you got some other people who have a little bit more panache with fans. Like they seem like they got you know you could picture them on a poster opposite Sean Strickland. You can't picture
Yeah.
Gregory Rodriguez on that poster even after this win. And so like that seems like the big barrier to you. But you also like this is exactly why I'm always saying the UFC it needs and you wish would show a little more gratitude to the kind of fighters at this level. You need the Robocops and the Fluffies out there. You need people who, even if they aren't the top, the elite of a division, can get us to at least care somewhat about them and can go out there and can put on a good ass fight. A just the tremendous toughness required from both of these dudes to produce this kind of fight. This is what we're always talking about when we're saying like the UFC has embarrassment of riches on its roster to be able to go. If the PFL put on a main event like this, they'd be talking about it for 6 months, trying to draw our attention to it. And the UFC is just like we can kind of take any couple guys out of the top 10 or 15 in most divisions, and often enough, we will end up with this kind of a fight.
You know what I don't want? I don't want to get kicked in the legs by Gregory Rodriguez.
I also don't want to get elbowed in the face, though, by Fluffy Hernandez. I don't want any
Luckily,
of it, Chad. To be honest with you, I want to stay
luckily,
home.
luckily, it's not a huge worry for us
Not
at this
yet.
point. In this point, at this point in our lives, it's not a huge worry.
Maybe we
Uh,
need one of like the version of like Cameo, but like how much do I have to pay Gregory Rodriguez to go kick my friend in his leg?
no, see, no, it's not you. Why would you do that?
Doorbell rings. You open up. Oh shit, it's Gregory Rodriguez. Before you can close it, he has kicked you in the calf and you have fallen face down on the floor.
Man, I gotta go get one of those Ring doorbells, don't I? I'll be looking on my phone from the back room. I'll be running out the back door if I see Gregory Rodriguez standing there.
Gregory Rodriguez standing there in a UPS outfit, and you're just going, no, not today. Not today, Robocop.
Here's the other thing about this fight night that struck me as I was watching it. You had a lot of fighters on here, no Wikipedia pages. You had 13 fights, and of the 26 fighters on this card, 11 of them were products of Dana White's Contender Series, or at least people who have fought on Dana White's Contender Series before, including Gregory Rodriguez. So damn near half this card is people who were at least appeared at one point on Dana White's Contender Series, and
Anthony Hernandez was on there. So
both members of the main event, and 0 people from the Ultimate Fighter, which
okay.
really it really tells you kind of how we've turned the page. And now Dana White's Contender Series is essentially the minor leagues, I guess, for the UFC, where you got to go to get in the gate. You got to go fight for the emperor, and he's got to give you the thumbs up or the thumbs down. This is the new, and has been for a while, but this is the new pipeline to the UFC for sure.
It is, and I got to give it credit for being a much more efficient pipeline
Yes,
than the Ultimate
and
Fighter.
and probably cheaper.
Probably cheaper, and I gotta think way more people are watching the Contender Series. Dana White keeps telling us the Ultimate Fighter still doing great, still very popular, people watching it. I don't believe you. I don't believe anybody's watching it. I, except for people, as we know, stuck on the couch with a fever and when it auto plays after they have watched some other UFC content. That's what we've learned. That's who the target audience may be. Because it's like we're all the way in this goddamn bubble. We hear from people, Chad, we hear from people who are on the regular watching fights, in the middle of nowhere, Moldova or something on a 11 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, and they're telling us about how things are going on down there. I never hear anybody talk about what's going on the Ultimate Fighter. Except the only time was an exception was when I heard recently that Herb Dean fucked up a fight in the Ultimate Fighter. That's it. I couldn't.
And don't forget Michael Bisping bringing in a bunch of little people as a hilarious joke on Daniel Cormier. Just in case you're wondering if we're still just doing blatantly problematic shit. 30
Well, and
some
see,
seasons
that
into
was
the
only
Ultimate Fighter.
I only saw that offered up was somebody like posted it on Twitter as and with the message being just in case you were wondering what's happening on the Ultimate Fighter, it's this. And you went, okay, I guess that probably checks out. I can go back to not thinking about it now. And so, the Contender Series actually creates a little bit of a buzz on, and in the middle of the week, it kind of reminds me of how those old UFC fight nights on Spike TV used to work, right? Like they do those on like a Wednesday night. And you'd be like, oh, okay, I don't got anything else going on this Wednesday night. It's a little lower wattage in terms of who's on it, but you would also be able to track somebody fighting on a couple of those and then moving on, and they'd be on the undercard of a pay-per-view. Then they won those, and they might be, on the main card or the co-main event or even the main event. Like you watched a progression and it sort of made sense. The Contender Series feels like it's getting a lot closer to that, which just further makes me wonder why we're even bothering with the Ultimate Fighter. And I'm sure the answer is money, 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 money. But as far as like, if you ask me which one I would actually stand a chance of watching, it's going to be the Contender Series. And I feel like this week you have a pretty good example of why.
They do a pretty good job making stuff happen over there that makes you want to watch the Contender Series because Dana White is going to show up, which that's in stark contrast to a lot of these fight nights. And he's going to have a press conference. You're going to get to ask him questions about stuff not even pertaining to Dana White's Contender Series. He's going to get to smart off in front of the media, act like a jackass. Everyone's going to get their social media clips. And so they do a good job, I think, making some of this relevant, even if it's not necessarily the fights that they have over there all the time. Speaking of money, and maybe this speaks to one of the reasons why Dana White Contender Series has become a pipeline to the UFC. There were some people on this card who got paid good money, guys in the main event got paid good money. Some of the people down the card made decent money, at least by MMA standards. There was 7 people on this card, though. 14 people on this card who earned $50,000 or less, which, when you make it to the UFC, and you're fighting at what is supposed to be the top level, maybe you should be making some money. There's multiple people on here making $12,000 to fight at a UFC fight night in California in an actual arena full of people.
Honestly, I mean, for one thing, it's worth noting that the only reason we even got to see this is because California is the rare outlier state that still will issue some kind of a public payout list. The UFC has successfully, Nevada used to do it. Other states used to do it. The UFC has successfully gotten them to stop that. California, one of the only remaining ones. We also hear about all the time that they're not totally accurate or they're outdated or whatever, but at least you're getting something. And to be honest, I mean, I guess it shows something about where we're at overall in this sport, that when I looked at some of the payouts, it was more than I would have thought. More than I would have thought the UFC was paying somebody at that level. And yet, you're right. I mean, it is also still like the tricky thing of telling us this is the highest level of this sport is the UFC. The UFC Fight Nights in front of a live crowd in an arena outside of the Meta Apex, the second highest tier of programming we have. And yet you have somebody out there who, after, taxes, expenses, paying off their corners or managers, their kind of fee, walking away with a paltry sum. The joke that they used to make about the UFC way back in the day is that a lot of these guys are not even making enough to cover their medical bills afterwards. And it's kind of crazy to see that there's still some people down there on these fight cards who are meeting that criteria. The Contender Series works as a good conduit for the UFC to get its hooks in young fighters, but also gets them to sign up with saying like, hey, we're going to give you the thumbs up or the thumbs down at the end of the night. And the thumbs up means this contract and only this contract, this standard boilerplate contract for all of you. And so by even showing up here to compete in the Contender Series, you're already preemptively agreeing to do that. So if you did something amazing that would make you like a sought after fighter or high profile fighter, doesn't matter. You've already agreed to this contract just by showing up to fight here tonight. And that's kind of crazy. And I mean, it works for the UFC because they're like, we'll get these guys into contracts that they got to really be good to even stick around long enough to fight their way off of this contract and into another contract. And we've seen people who've done it and it's worked out pretty well for them, but they're also kind of the minority there. And so that's just, it's part of the sausage factory that these fighters had to get on the conveyor belt and hope that, you make it to the end of the conveyor belt. Not everybody's going to. Then again, as Dana White would put it, Chad, you're here to prove to him that you belong in the UFC, prove to him that you deserve actual UFC kind of money. And you're kind of saying that a lot of these people on this card aren't there yet.
Remember, you're listening to the Co-Main Event podcast proper. This show drops every Monday afternoon for free wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you hear, go ahead and leave us a glowing, I would say, embarrassingly complimentary 5-star review. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. That way you never miss an episode. Another great way to make sure you stay up to date with what the CME is doing is by signing up for our email newsletter. To do that, just head over to comainevent.com and click the link at the top of the screen that says subscribe. While you're there, go ahead and check out our merchandise shop. You might as well just click shop. You're already there. You're already at the page. You're signing up for the newsletter. Click shop right at the top of the screen. Check out all of our wares. We got t-shirts, we got hats, we got hoodies, we got tote bags, we got beach towels. We even have the best-selling Daddest Man on the Planet coffee mugs and t-shirts, which make a great gift for any father figure in your life. Here's the most important part, though. If you really want to support the show and make sure we can keep producing this podcast for all the little co-maniacs out there, the absolute best thing you can do is sign up to join the Patreon community. This isn't just a great way to support the show. It's a great way to get yourself a shitload of additional CME content each and every week. We're hanging out over at patreon.com/co-main event almost every day, producing exclusive podcasts like Wednesday's live chat, which is usually more than an hour of nothing but your questions. We got Friday's Power Hour, a full additional hour of MMA talk every week. For the true heads, we got Doing the Damn Thing, where we talk about all the stuff going on outside of MMA we think you might be interested in. And as Ben mentioned at the top of the show, we got the Movie Club. He sounds like he's going to be super mad on the next episode.
I'm hot about this one, Chad.
here's the kids that you don't want to miss a show where Ben Folks is coming in hot, where you know in advance, where you've got feelings strong enough to let us know in advance that you're coming in hot. You don't want to miss that.
I've got some shit to say specifically to those people who voted for this movie in the movie club. I want to know what the fuck your problem is. What's going on in your life? Is everything okay at home? Jesus.
We got the movie club. We got live watch parties. We're going to kick off our season 1 rewatch of The Wire here pretty soon. Plus, there's the official Discord message board where they're talking about fights and a lot of other stuff pretty much 24 hours a day. So if you like the show and you want to help keep it going, this is the best way to do it. And in return, you get a ridiculous amount of additional CME content every week. Would be great if you'd give us a chance to win your love. Head on over to patreon.com/co-main event and sign up to join the team. If you do, we'll see you over there. Then you got and like we always do about this time, let's do a little bit of listener mail.
Listener mail.
First piece of listener mail this week comes to us from Darkwing Duck. Our guy writes in to say, looks like the CME's Monster Factory project missed the boat on Anthony Wint. The former New York Jets and CFL player won his fight on Dana White's Contender Series 2 weeks ago and then made his UFC debut on Saturday, winning by first round arm triangle choke. Is this proof of concept for the Monster Factory and evidence that you guys better get off your ass and find that venture capital seed money before the UFC figures this shit out and does it themselves? Do you see this? Have you seen Anthony Wint? Have you laid eyes on him? Because I'll tell you one thing, he knows where to keep the weights. I'll tell you that. Looks good getting off the bus.
Here's the thing. Here's what I hope people understand about the Monster Factory idea is this was an act of altruism by us. This isn't, us being out here being like, we got to own everything the way the UFC needs to own everything. We got to figure out how to make a buck. It'd be nice. It'd be nice if people would throw us the $40 they owe us on the consulting service every once in a while. Hasn't happened a single time yet. It would be nice. But honestly, what we really want is for the world to become a better place. And if other people are going to pick up this concept of the Monster Factory and realize this shit could work and in fact must work, in fact is desperately needed, then you know what? More power to them. That's what I say.
Anthony Wint spent some time with the New York Jets, then went up there and played in Canada for the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the CFL. He became the Fury FC heavyweight champion in March of this year. In August, he fought Matt Adams, August 11th, in the Dana White Contender Series. He won by first round TKO in 34 seconds. Some 11 days later, he shows up at UFC Fight Night. Hernandez versus Rodriguez, fights Terrence Chapman, beats him by first round arm triangle choke, choked him unconscious 30 seconds before the end of the first round. Like I said, looks good getting off the bus. Athletic guy. Seems like he's got some skills. Bunch of first round stoppages right in a row. Seems like exactly what you want if you're the UFC. American heavyweight Anthony Wint. I will say this. Headed into this fight, he was minus 1,000. So, we say this with Gable Stevenson just to temper the expectations a little bit. So far, all he's done, Gable Dan Stevenson, is defeat the guys he was supposed to defeat, and in the fashion he was supposed to defeat them in. And so I guess you got to say the same thing here about Anthony Wint's UFC debut, minus 1,000. Yeah, this is what he was supposed to do out there.
Are you concerned at all that he is not a particularly tall man for the heavyweight division?
231 pounds he weighed in at this weekend. So yeah, I'm a little concerned. He sounds like I'll tell you what, he sounds like a light heavyweight to me. I got to be honest.
Then again, well, see, that's the thing is like when you get a guy who's kind of on the bubble like that, it's like if you're going to be 5'11" or 6 feet tall or whatever you want to bill him as, he's still going to be short at light heavyweight. He'd just be short against guys who are better athletes. Now, I don't want to make crazy comparisons, but I can think of a fella wasn't all that big for the heavyweight division, still had himself a lot of success, followed by the name of Cain Velasquez.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a big heavyweight, but was a quick heavyweight, an athletic heavyweight with a well-rounded skill set. So it can be done. I think that it's interesting to kind of get some of these guys, throw them in there. I tried not to get hung up on this when you were talking, but I couldn't help it, and I need to go back and revisit it. The Tiger Cats.
Mm-hmm. Hamilton Tiger Cats.
What the fuck is a tiger cat? Because a tiger is sort of by definition a cat. Why wouldn't they just be the tigers, Chad?
I'll tell you what, Tiger Cats is not even the most quizzical nickname up there north of the border in the CFL.
They got some. They got some.
You also got the Red Blacks. I believe they're Ottawa. Is it Ottawa Red Blacks? Is that where they're from?
Are you asking me?
Ottawa Red Blacks. I still don't know what that. At least we know what a tiger cat is. You know?
Yeah. But it's like, there's a team in the Canadian League that can just be called the Elks. We're fine with that. That's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. There's the Lions. They do some of that regular ass stuff, and then somebody got to show up and be the Tiger Cats.
Also, I would point out that I think the plural of elk is elk.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe not in Canada. Maybe you say elks up there in Canada. Next question this week comes to us from Seinfeld character Kenny Bania.
Kenny Bania? Yeah.
Yep, Kenny Bania. Right.
He's the hack comedian who benefits from following Jerry's act.
RDR looked great at 205. That division could use some juice. Having said that, what was Roman Dolidze thinking pulling guard on a ground specialist? Talk about low fight IQ. RDR spitting fire about weight cuts this past week, going out there at 205, looking like he belonged, although against another guy who was a middleweight in his past. So, take that for what it's worth. It was insane that Roman Dolidze pulled guard and was like, I think I'm going to heel hook him. I'm going to throw all my eggs in the heel hook basket going out there against Rainier de Ridder. And if that doesn't work, I'm out of ideas. He pulled guard, never got back up.
Must have thought he had a plan.
Yeah, and the plan was heel hook or knee bar or bust. That was all he was going to do. That was all he was doing.
Is he thinking he'll never expect this?
Maybe.
Because it would be a bad idea. They'll never expect you to do something this dumb, and therefore you'll catch him with it. And then if you don't, you're going to have a bad time. And that's kind of what happened. I want us to not forget, though, for people who didn't hear us discuss this on Friday's Power Hour, I do appreciate Rainier de Ridder's quote about weight cuts, I believe, which included the line, "What the fuck are we doing?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nobody hates a weight cut quite like a guy who was making a really, really difficult weight cut and then decided to stop and go compete in another division, and he can look back on it and be like, that was fucking stupid, man. Yeah. What are we doing?
Yeah. I did like Michael Bisping's commentary during this fight where he said Rainier de Ridder didn't respect the calendar, didn't respect the schedule, and so had to do too many weight cuts right in a row. And then, what did de Ridder say? It ruined everything, something like that. He said some awesome thing about everything gets ruined or something like that. But now he's up there at 205, didn't respect the schedule, Michael Bisping's opinion. And so
the schedule is year round and the guy don't make money on the couch. That's what he was thinking.
Yeah. Schedule is what you make it, I guess. But yeah, he looked good. Looked good against Roman Dolidze, and excited to see him again, I guess. Next question this week comes to us from Matt Webb, who writes in to say, this Chanel Dyer looks about as good as you can look in her second UFC fight. She beat the absolute shit out of Elise Reed for 2 rounds before finishing her in the third. 116 significant strikes landed. We need some violence injected into the women's strawweight, and Dyer looked like the woman for the job. Discourse. One of the things we used to say about Joanna Jędrzejczyk back in the day was she seemed to really enjoy beating people up. Seemed like a really nice person outside the cage. Loved Disney World, would ride around on her cruiser bike. Cute as a button. Then you get her in the cage, and she just seemed to take pleasure in destroying the person across from her, death by 1,000 cuts, just beating them up over the course of several rounds until they just couldn't do it anymore. I get somewhat similar vibes from Dyer out there. Decorated kickboxer coming into the UFC, and she does seem, at least outwardly, to really like to kick your ass while she's in there.
And you know what? That's something that we really need. And like we've been talking about how the women's divisions feel pretty stagnant lately. There's not a whole lot that you can see people getting excited about. And so to have somebody show up, seem like they enjoy putting an ass whipping on somebody else, it feels like a breath of fresh air. Everybody's just going, finally, here we go. Let's see where we can go with this.
We got ourselves into a sad situation over in the Elise Reed corner between rounds 2 and 3, where they asked her if she had anything left, and she said no. And then they said, "Do you want me to stop it?" And then there were some long pauses, and then she said no. And to his credit, the corner man was like, "I'm not going to send you back out there if you're done. If you're done, just tell me. I'm not going to send you back out there." And she said somewhat dejectedly, "I'm not going to quit." And so they sent her back out there, and she continued to get her ass beat a little longer until she got stopped.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, is like, that's where I think everything we know about fighter psychology tells you that the corner man needs to be the one to just say, I'm stopping it.
Yeah.
Because they can't do that. They don't want to be the one saying it. They know that the camera's going to catch it. They know people are going to brand them that way as somebody who quit on the stool. You need to take that choice away from them if you are going to do that, I think, because I mean, it's one thing if you're just like, hey, you need to be doing more or else I'm going to stop it or something. But if you're trying to find out, does she want out of there? Does she have anything left here? You need to kind of, I think, make that assessment because it's so hard for them. Like you're putting it all on them and they know what is going to come of being the person to say it. I feel like in that situation, you should just say it.
When they say they got nothing left, I don't think you should be trying to talk them into it at that point. This wasn't terrible cornering. I don't want to say that. I don't know if they really should have stopped it, but I would say red flag, maybe, when you ask your fighter, do you have anything left? And she says no. Maybe you don't ask any other questions after that.
Maybe that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah. This was also a situation where she's getting beat up against the fence by Dyer, and it's one of those referee situations where I'm sitting at home being like, okay, think we could probably call it here. Think we've seen about all we need to see. I can't remember if this was a familiar ref or the handsome young ref who just made his debut. I can't remember, but someone let her get a little bit too beat up for my taste.
The handsome young ref.
Did you see him? He looks like who he looks like is Maven. Remember Maven from WWE? Came in from Tough Enough.
Okay, kinda.
It's just, good looking guy. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
Last question this week comes to us from Miss Jackson, if you nasty. She writes in to say, Bellamir fights on the Contender Series this week. Here's her quote, "I don't even want to be the best MMA fighter or the best combat athlete. I want to be the best athlete of all time. I just want to hit the highest of goals that you can hit and just stay focused. And I'm always just reminding myself of those dreams of mine." Then Miss Jackson, if you nasty, continues, "I mean, are we hoping the MMA gods are paying as little attention to MMA as the rest of us these days, or what?" Hubris of youth.
Yeah, I mean, that's the enthusiasm of youth, what you're seeing right there. And so I understand it. I'll say this. I was talking about Bellamir's debut with the Contender Series coming up tomorrow with my editor Shaheen Al-Shadi over there at the Uncrowned, and he was like, this is the first Contender Series that we're really going to cover like an event in a long time, maybe ever, just because there is excitement about that. There's excitement about Bellamir coming in and I to me, it's always interesting when the children of fighters become fighters, just because you and I both had these conversations with fighters over the years where they go, absolutely not. I don't want my kid fighting. It's because they know everything that goes into that life. They know all the ways to get taken advantage of and exploited. They know what it can do to people and everything. And it's one of those things where they kind of have to realize, like, well, nobody was going to stop me when I decided I wanted to do it.
Hmm.
Even if my dad had said, I don't think it's a good idea, and even if he would have had the expertise necessary to tell me how he knows it's not a good idea, I still would have wanted to do it. And so there's kind of not a whole lot they could do about it. And yet you see somebody like Bellamir come in and you go, honestly, though, she could come in, especially in this what women's MMA has going on right now. She could be a real shot in the arm. She could come in here, maybe wreck shop. She could do really, really well, and people get excited about it because, like, how do you resist that story? Like, the daughter of a former UFC heavyweight champion going to show up and start beating the shit out of people, and you can see why maybe the UFC would have some incentive possibly to start putting her in some positions to be successful.
I'm trying to look at her record here on Tapology. She appeared to be 3-0 in her last win at Fury Challenger Series 14. Then she lost a wrestling match to Alexis Gomez. She won 2 grappling matches in UFC BJJ. Then she has this confirmed upcoming bout on the Contender Series against Alex Apodaca. And it looks to me, unless I'm reading this the wrong way, like Tapology has just gone ahead and made Bellamir 4-0.
Okay.
But we haven't had the fight yet, but we're just going to chalk that one up maybe to a win. I'm not sure. Maybe that's her record coming in. I don't know. You know who else would say some outlandish things in his day is Frank Mir. She comes by it honest, is what I'm saying.
Now, it looks like she's legitimately 4-0 here,
Okay.
according
All
to
right.
what I'm looking at. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I think everybody's going to be paying a little bit closer attention to this than they would to just like randos fighting on the Contender Series. It's exactly the kind of thing that if you're the UFC, you hope to get. So I don't know. It's I do appreciate. We talk in this culture a lot about nepo babies, and in sports is one of the few areas where you can be like, okay, yeah, go do that all you want, because there's no real nepo babying your way through it. You know, if you're not good enough, you're gonna get your ass beat on a streaming service, on a premium streaming service, Chad. It's not like the thing where it's like, this kid is an actor, his dad's Dennis Quaid or whatever. Like, is he a good actor? I don't know. No, maybe not absolutely elite or anything, but he had some names he could drop in the audition. He had some foot in the door. He knew some people who knew something about it, so maybe that's why he's here. Bellamir, that's gonna get your foot in the door to be Bellamir, to have that last name and everything. But if you can't fight, they're gonna beat your ass. So let's see it.
I guess in some ways you can be a nepo baby and get to the at least the Contender Series and potentially the UFC when you're 4 or 5-0. Yes, when maybe if you were an unknown fighter, you wouldn't be there. But like you said, you are sort of in the business of getting your ass kicked or kicking someone's ass. That's kind of the whole point of this. So uh it's kind of okay with me.
Yeah.
You're going to get some opportunities because of who your parents are. Because, like you said, it's you can't fake it for too long. You can't be in a bunch of terrible movies, right? You're going to find out real quick if you got pushed up the ladder because of who your dad was.
Yeah. And whatever gets anybody interested, as if you're the promoter, and especially if you're looking for some help in the women's divisions right now, you're glad to see Bellamir coming.
Yeah, you are.
You're just wondering, what's it gonna take to get Brock Lesnar's daughter over here?
Would they be in the same weight class? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. She looks like a monster, man. I don't
Yeah,
know if she's making any existing MMA weight class just based on the eye test.
man, I tell you what, if they were though,
If they were though,
if they were though,
that'd be exciting.
if they were though. All right, that is going to do it for listener mail this week. If you have a question, comment, or concern that you want to air to the podcast in future weeks, you know how to do it. Go to the website co-mainevent.com and click the link at the top of the page that says email the podcast. That'll get you in touch with us. Right now, Cris Cyborg was kind of supposed to be her retirement fight. Ketlen Vieira did, in fact, retire. Cris Cyborg, though, did she, though? Hard to know. We'll talk about that right after this. Ben, I do have to admit that I forgot that Cris Cyborg was in the PFL before they announced that she was coming back to defend a title that she apparently won some time ago. I mean, at the time, I guess I knew it. I guess I knew that this had happened. But when they announced that she was having this fight against Ketlen Vieira, I was like, oh yeah, Cris Cyborg. And then I started to think, it wouldn't be terrible for MVP to have Cris Cyborg hanging around, right? You could do worse than having Cris Cyborg under the umbrella of your organization. But now it seems like maybe she won't be around too much longer. But she's going to have to go take some time, see how she feels, according to Cris Cyborg, after this thing was over. Ketlen Vieira, on the other hand, she called it a career after this one.
I mean, the thing for me is it seems we've talked to this before, where some fighters where you get the sense they really, really enjoy this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, nobody's making NFL money, so the money is always going to be a little bit of a factor in motivating people to keep going. But we have seen fighters where they're making good money, they don't need to do this for the money, and yet they seem to see it as the worst possible thing if somebody made them leave. They want to just keep showing up and they want to keep fighting. Even when a part of them knows you can't do this shit forever, one of these is going to have to be the last one. They just don't want it to be this one. And Cyborg seems like one of those people, and like she always has. Because there were times where it seemed like no matter how good Cyborg might be, there didn't seem to be a ton of obvious future moves, like future big moves for her to make. And yet she kept finding something to do somewhere in combat sports. It just seems like she genuinely just wants to keep showing up and fighting, even though she knows enough to know, like, you gotta be closer to the end here than you are the beginning.
Yeah, which it's about time, probably, just in terms of chronological age. Obviously,
she's still doing it.
Yeah, she's still doing it and still looking good. I will say, Ketlen Vieira went out there and fared better against Cris Cyborg than we've seen a lot of people fare in this fight. She had her moments. She was landing shots. She was not afraid to throw them hands with Cris Cyborg. Had her backed up against the cage a little bit, was tagging her here and there. And she ended up losing, what I think 48-47, mostly across the board, maybe 149-46. But we've seen people get their ass beat a lot worse by Cris Cyborg. So I don't know though, if you're Ketlen Vieira, you missed weight by what, 7 pounds? I think 7-8 pounds, something like that.
Indicative that things were maybe not going perfect.
Yeah, and then after the fight, you retire. Kind of makes me think the writing was on the wall.
Yeah,
when you came into this one.
Yeah, it seemed like maybe not a whole lot went right for her there. For one thing, one of the things that I appreciated about Cyborg basically calling out everybody she could think of afterwards, she really wants that Claressa Shields fight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she's going to get it, but she will keep talking about it. She'll every once in a while, when I issue like a call for questions in my mailbag, Cris Cyborg has written in to be like, do you think Claressa Shields will ever have the courage to fight me? And I don't know what to tell you, Cris. I don't know. I can't peer into the mind of another and answer that one for you. I did enjoy this part. This is from our write-up of the event over there by Drake Riggs on the Uncrowned. Claressa Shields, the girl is scared to fight me. You're scared. Vieira has more heart than you. Eat less. Let's fight at 160 pounds. Let's go. Just Chris Cyborg getting on the microphone telling you to eat less. You know what my answer to that would be, Jed? No. I really enjoy eating food.
I do too. It's one of the many reasons why you and I don't have to worry about getting kicked by Gregory Rodriguez or punched in the face by Anthony Hamilton or Anthony Hernandez, because we have chosen different routes. And the route that we have chosen allows us to eat pretty much whenever and however we want.
Yeah. Not going to eat less. Sorry, Chris.
Do you think one of the things that, Chris Cyborg maybe has to go think about is MVP? Getting involved is like, maybe there's a little bit of money to be had for her, even if it's not Shields.
Well, I mean, she said, right, that she is specifically not a free agent. I don't know what that would mean for her boxing or anything like that. But if I'm Chris Cyborg, I would like to be in a position where I can hear interesting offers. Like I don't know what the contract says about what she can do with PFL, moving with the MVP and all that kind of stuff. But like, I would like to be in a situation where somebody has to offer me more money to do these things, especially if I know they're going to be jumping up a whole lot in terms of profile and visibility,
Well, we've been asking the question, if MVP is going to be a going concern in MMA, and clearly they expect to be with the PFL acquisition, who are they going to get, right? Who can they get to have these fights? Who can they get that people know? Chris Cyborg could be one of those people. In fact, that's kind of what Chris Cyborg has been her entire career, is a person who can kind of carry your MMA card if you're looking for someone to do that.
Here's a thought, though. The thing, that they got criticized afterwards for was like when you had Gina Carano as an undefeated prospect and you threw her in there against Chris Cyborg because it was the biggest fight you could possibly make, but it was also the one that effectively ended Gina Carano's MMA career. The one where she took an ass beating and was like, you know what? There are easier ways for me personally to make $1. I am going to go be an actor now. And it was a good move for her. But also people afterwards went, oh, you never should give her to Cyborg. And so, later where it was like Cyborg wanted to fight Ronda Rousey and you're like, no, we're not fucking up like that. We're not gonna slay the goose laying the golden eggs. And yet now this version of Cyborg, maybe in her 40s, are you in a Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz situation?
Well, Tito Ortiz was in the corner. He was in the corner for Cyborg this weekend.
And doing Tito Ortiz shit every time there was a microphone in front of him, too. God bless him. He ain't never changed it that way. But are you like, okay, Ronda Rousey couldn't have beaten Chris Cyborg when they were in their primes. What about now? What about now, Chad?
God damn it, Ben Folks. I hadn't even considered that. I'm the one over here talking about maybe Chris Cyborg has to think about MVP's entrance into the MMA market. That's why she has to go home and ponder whether or not she really wants to retire or not. But I had not even considered that we might be able to get Ronda Rousey out there to fight her. That's a fight you can hang a Netflix event around right there.
Can and perhaps should.
Can
at this
and
point
perhaps should.
That to be the big problem is talking Ronda Rousey and being like, hey, I know you said you were really glad to get that one last payday and get out the door here and, go back home. Would you like to do it all again for a much tougher fight?
She's like, no, I'm fine sitting here making fun of Hunter Campbell. Thank you very much.
Couldn't blame her if that's what she decided.
Maybe Gina Carano wants that revenge.
Don't fuck around. Don't. Come on.
Maybe Gina Carano get a little get back,
One of the worst MMA ass beatings I ever personally saw was at a Strikeforce event where Chris Cyborg beat up Jan Finney.
Oh, yeah. Whatever Chris Cyborg was doing in MMA, carrying people's MMA cards, Jan Finney was doing the opposite.
Jan Cuddles Finney.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if her nickname was Cuddles, because that's what I also remembered.
She seemed like a nice person. I remember all fight week, all of us in the media were looking at her being like, have you seen Chris Cyborg's fights, though? Do you think this is a good idea for you? And especially she had this like shock of blonde hair. Exactly what Patty Pimblett talked about recently when he was talking about why he decided to braid it, because after that one of those fights where people were looking at the hair flying around every time you get hit makes it look way worse.
Yeah.
And Cris Cyborg just beat the hell out of her, and you could see that hair just flying all over the cage, and you're just like, who did this? They should be brought up on charges, whoever booked this fight.
That was a bad one. That was a bad one. Uh so over in PFL this weekend, you had two. Well, one, I think, potential knockout of the year with Owen Sheridan kneeing a guy in the face and just shutting him off like a robot, causing him to fall straight down on his face. And you also had Luke Trainer front kick KO in this thing, which was also a good one. And then you had over in the UFC, Ben, you had only 3 fights went to decision, and you had a bunch of first round stoppages here. We've been talking for a while about Dana White saying he's here selling holy shit moments, whether or not that means we're in somewhat different territory than trying to book good fights. There were 7 first round stoppages, only 3 decisions on this card. We had also talked last week over on the Power Hour about the number of mismatches, or at least the number of long odds heading into this card. Anthony Wint was minus 1,000. Carly Judice, I can never remember how to say her name, although she also enjoys beating people up. She was minus 575. You had minus 750 for Marcio Barbosa. Just a lot of long odds. Minus 850. Chanel Dyer was minus 850, so maybe that's why she had such a nice time beating up Elise Reed. And then I'll be honest with you, I circled back after the PFL event and watched Cris Cyborg versus Ketlen Vieira. Other than that, I interacted with this card largely based on social media.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the UFC, the same thing happens, especially when you've got a particularly dog shit fight night. This one I watched. I didn't just interact with on social media, but sometimes I do. Is booking for holy shit moments the right way to go about it these days?
My question is, how does the holy shit moments on social media lead to something other than social media views? Because if you're the UFC, I guess like your priority should be thinking about how are we building stars that people are really going to want to see, that will lead to, ticket sales, and especially bringing in subscribers for Paramount Plus, who's paying us all this money and they want to see something coming back their way. And if you're just so focused on the holy shit moments that people can consume via social media, because I saw those moments from the PFL, right? Like coming across my social media feed, and all it made me do was watch them on social media. It didn't make me feel differently about, let me make sure let me like rush right from watching this highlight to look up when the next PFL event is, because I don't want to miss it. Like, I think you have to get people emotionally invested in who these fighters are, what their story is, what this particular fight means to them. I just don't think it works to do that if you're just putting together randos and hoping somebody does something incredible. They will. You put together enough fights like that, especially if you're putting together some lopsided ones, you will get some moments like that. But I don't know how that then translates to something that you want, that brings you the money, the acclaim, the attention that you want, beyond just me seeing this on the feed and then flipping to the next thing, which essentially is what we've been saying about the power slap. Like, yeah, sure, I'm sure you managed to sneak that thing into a bunch of people's algorithm. Maybe they made the mistake of watching one 15-second clip, and now the algorithm just keeps on feeding it, and they're not scrolling away fast enough, and so it keeps feeding them more and more, and you're racking up all these social media views. How does that lead, though? Like, especially for something like power slap, I think it just exposes the extent to which views do not equal popularity for your sport necessarily.
I don't know, fastest growing sport in the world, most watched sport in the world, from what I understand, bigger than all of the other sports combined.
Which only makes it more glaring that nobody gives a shit about any of them, and nobody can even name any of these fucking people.
The crazy Hawaiian.
What's the crazy Hawaiian's next match?
He probably fights the potato. Dumpling, right? Like the guy, the Russian guy, Dumpling, was a big time slapper for a while.
your voice, the tone of your voice is dripping with confidence that everything you're saying is correct.
All right, that's going to do it this week for the co-main event podcast. Thanks everybody for listening. We will be back on Wednesday with the live chat. So catch us over there on the Patreon page, patreon.com/co-main event. If you do that, we'll see you on Wednesday. If you don't, we'll see you right back here tomorrow. As for right now, thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support. We're done. We are through. We are out.
I'll say this: I'm not familiar with No Neck Jay's entire body of work, but you throw that guy on the screen, you tell me this is No Neck Jay. I go, yeah, it is. Certainly is.
Mm-hmm.
There is no danger of you saying, oh, look, there's No Neck Jay over there, and me looking over and being like, where? Which one?
Which one is No Neck Jay? No, they didn't go too far out on a limb for his nickname. They didn't go too far. You sent me an email. Does this have the Fat Diddy? Is that what I'm going to be looking at here?
You're going to be looking at the finish of this fight, the incredibly athletic finish of this fight.
Okay, waiting for it to load up. Okay. Oh, that guy does kind of look like Fat Diddy.
Of course he does. I'm not lying to you.
Wow, and that guy really doesn't have a neck either.
No neck, Chad. No neck, Jay.
Yeah.
He delivers what he promises.
Okay. All right. We're 2:30 into the first. Does Fat Diddy have a Coors ad on the back of his? Oh, well, you got to stop punching him once he falls down. No neck. That's Jesus.
On the ref for not getting in there quick enough, honestly.
Yeah.
Also, it seems like No Neck Jay is 3-0, and 2 of those wins are against Fat Diddy, who is 0-2.
Oh man, those are his only fights. His only fights are against No Neck Jay. That's sad.
No, he beat Jabulin.
Oh,
whoever that is. That was his first fight. He beat Jabulin.
Okay.